Asus just dropped a $500,000 graphics card made with real gold. A new GPU lets you slap 2 SSDs directly on it. I let a robot car drive me around, and Tesla's already trying to bring their Robotaxis to Arizona. Plus, I have a new update on Commodore being resurrected. The Commodore 64 is making a comeback, it looks like. And Apple finally admits the trash can Mac Pro belongs in the past. You know the drill, let's get into it. The infamous trash can Mac Pro officially just got trashed. Apple slapped the vintage label on it, and the internet has some thoughts. Let's go down memory lane, shall we? You guys remember this? The trash can Mac Pro. It was heralded as being a really unique and innovative design from Apple that ended up having a whole bunch of problems with it. Also, some cool mods came from this as well. You know, a few people got to painting their Mac Pros. Look at this red one. We got a nice green. Look at that. Beautiful. A lot of people did a few different mods to it, but were restricted because, well, we'll get into it. Apple's innovative but thermally flawed trash can Mac Pro joins the company's vintage product list. Owners can still get their unit serviced or repaired if the parts are available. Classic Mac. More than a decade ago, Apple introduced what the majority of people would agree was one of the most cool looking products, and that is without considering its functionality. And that's where things get really weird with this product. Cylindrical shape, heavily criticized for being hard to upgrade, and probably what is equally, if not more important, thermally limited. I'm going to get into that in a second. The 2013 Mac Pro was by far one of the technology giant's most iconic designs for its workstation class machines. But due to the reasons that have been discussed an innumerable number of times, the company reintroduced the tower design with its Apple Silicon and has placed the trash can form factor into its vintage list of products. So this thing is more than 12 years old now. It was officially discontinued back in 2019 when Apple decided to bring back tower design, and that's where we got the beloved cheese grater Mac Pro. There's a whole bunch of great memes about that. Solid cheese grater. Workstation. It took a while for the Mac Pro to be added to Apple's vintage product list, and that's because this workstation kept on selling for such a long time that it took 12 years after the inception to be added to the list. Now, typically, they add products to their list like 5 years after the first sale begins, but they made an exception for the trash can Mac Pro because it's just so gosh darn cute. So what does it mean when a product enters Apple's quote-unquote vintage list? That means that it will still have its parts sold and can be serviced, with the only condition being that its components are still sold at an authorized outlet. After the 5-year vintage period has ended, Apple adds those products to the obsolete list, which is typically more than 7 years. Now, when this thing came out, the Apple executive that introduced the unit said, "Oh, we can't innovate anymore?" My ass. This was during the announcement, and turned out to be a massive disappointment. This thing looked like a Bluetooth speaker and performed like one after a couple of years. I mean, there were so many issues with this in terms of not having enough thermal capacity to actually cool the unit. It had the RAM baked into the chipset. Everything was already essentially in there and hard to upgrade. Getting past its unique form factor, the workstation's thermal capabilities were deemed inadequate, with owners unable to utilize the hardware's full potential due to a lack of cooling. But hey, at least it looks cool, right? Additionally, users could hardly upgrade the components on the machine, which was one of the essential features present on the previous gen design. And then what did Apple do? They admitted that they done goofed. Their executives came out and said the company designed a product that put itself in a thermal corner. I mean, this was Apple at its peak form over function phase. I remember people trying to like desperately mod external GPUs just to make this usable for anything beyond iMovie. So rest in peace to the trash can. It's on the vintage list now, probably where it belongs. Oh my goodness, would you look at that? Today's video is sponsored by my company. It's Meta PCs. This is the Night Reaper. It's a ready-to-ship monster powered by the Ryzen 7 9800X 3D and the NVIDIA RTX 5080. It's got 64 gigs of DDR5 memory at 6,000 megahertz, 2 terabyte NVMe, and a Meta 360 AIO, keeping it ice cold. But the real showstopper is the case. This is not like a vinyl sticker that's just slapped on the side. This is a full custom printed chassis designed in-house, perfectly printed panel to panel. Even the GPU backplate matches. This thing is absolutely insane. It ships the next business day. It comes with lifetime support from our US-based team, and it's built for one thing: to dominate games and crush productivity. Now, building your own PC is a ton of fun, but if you just want to plug and play and just game, treat yourself to a Meta PC. We've got budget builds, high-end beasts like the Night Reaper, and we have financing available. We also offer discounts for our military and first responders. Thank you so much for your service. You can pick up yours right now at metapcs.com. And now, back to the news. All right, you've mounted GPUs in your case. Now, how about mounting SSDs directly onto the GPU? Well, Colorful is letting you do just that. Let's dig into it and see if it's a good idea or not. Colorful's next RTX 50 GPU model will allow you to mount two M.2 SSDs, bringing extra slots on board. Now, I have a couple questions and concerns about this that I'm going to get into. First of all, does this look good objectively? Does this look nice? I think for a lot of people that are really picky about the aesthetics of their build, this may not make a whole lot of sense. But functionality-wise, it may have a couple interesting uses. I'll get into that. Colorful has plans to innovate the segment by offering two M.2 SSD slots on its next GPU model, giving users the option to mount as many drives as they would like. This was something that was leaked at a recent event. People spotted this card in the wild. We have no idea what model this is. There are some ideas on what it could be because adding two SSDs to your GPU obviously is going to occupy some of your PCIe lanes, right? So the idea is this would be like a 50-50, 50-60 type of thing, utilizing 8 lanes, leaving some open for these additional SSDs so that hopefully it doesn't tank the performance of your graphics card, which would totally defeat the purpose. The image shows two M.2 slots situated at the GPU's backplate, and while they do look odd at first, the solution is pretty practical. The variant is reported to be named iGame Ultra Duo White SSD, and the naming scheme clearly indicates that this GPU will have SSD slots on board. Now, on paper, the GPU should function completely on the PCIe 16 slot. It will utilize it completely without wasting any lanes, which is simply great and practical. The only downside, here we go, is that some users might find it troubling that their SSDs mess up the aesthetics of the build itself. So like I said, if you don't mind looking at this, I guess it's not a huge deal. Another interesting use for this actually would be some of those ITX builds. I could definitely see people with like smaller form factor builds having less options on the motherboard and stuff, utilizing a card that has this baked in. It actually makes a lot of sense. And this is starting to become more frequent too. If you'll remember, Asus had a concept 4060 Ti that you can check out here that came with Gen 4 SSD slots as well. This was the 4060 Ti. Having additional slots on board works perfectly in case you're looking to swap out storage drives frequently, and when you combine the number of slots that come with the motherboard as well, it gives you the room to put in many SSDs in a single build. And this article calls it out as well. While we're not certain which GPU Colorful went on with this variant, the best guess is likely a GPU with PCIe times 8 slot utilization, which narrows down 60 class models or the beloved RTX 5050. No pricing, no release dates, but interesting technology. Let me know if this is something that would make sense for your build, or if you're curious about maybe having a card that would feature a couple extra SSD slots on it. Let me know if you have a use for this down below in the comments. Hey, and while you're there, there's a big red or white subscribe button. You could click that. There's also a nice thumbs up that helps the channel too. Just saying, while you're down there. This thing's either genius or somebody at Colorful was really bored. The Commodore 64 is back. I'm talking actually back, with hardware launching for the first time in 30 years. Look at this. Now, you remember we talked about this a while back. We have a YouTuber who bought the Commodore Corporation, the rights to it. I think it's still in process. He's looking at raising funds and stuff, but it's not stopped him from launching a hardware product, which was kind of teased. He was talking a lot about a hardware comeback, and it looks like that is a real thing. In fact, there's a website now, the Commodore website, where you can order this Commodore 64 Ultimate. Now, the only difference between all of these models, I think there's 3 different ones here, is just aesthetics. Under the hood, it's the exact same thing. So let's dig into it. The Commodore 64 Ultimate computer is the company's first hardware release in over 30 years. Pre-order starting at $299. Now, this has a lot of cool modern features that might be of interest to you. Let's check it out. The Commodore 64 Ultimate will be the first new hardware released under the new management of the corporation. This new home computer product is now available for pre-order starting at $299, but shipping won't happen until October at the earliest. For your cash, here's what you get. A device which isn't a software emulator. Now, I talked originally when we heard about the comeback of like, please don't let it just be an emulator. Let's have some cool stuff added to this hardware. And so far, like for an initial release, this is kind of dope. It's got AMD architecture. It's claimed to be compatible with 10,000 plus original games, cartridges, and peripherals. So again, 3 models, only difference really cosmetically, but if you dig under the hood on this thing, this is the first Commodore 64 in over 30 years. But the hardware hasn't been in stasis. The Ultimate model has quite a few modern tricks up its sleeve. Let's dig into it and see what they added to this thing. So you got 128 megabytes of DDR2 RAM. Ooh, that's the fast stuff. Storage supports USB thumb drives, all your classic FAT32, all that good stuff. Also, the original game drives. This is supposed to be 99% compatible with all of the 80s and 90s games, cartridges, and peripherals as well. You've also got USB-C on this thing. You have 3 USB 2 ports, 1 USB-C, micro SD, and check this out, HDMI and Ethernet. You have the original layout of the Commodore 64 on the keyboard as well, 66 key mechanical. It's got some nice switches on there too. 70 RGB LEDs, standard stabilizers, a lot of good lighting worked into this as well. In fact, I was looking at the model, this Founders Edition model actually looks really, really dope. Check out some of the photos of this thing. I mean, just look at that. Beautiful translucent thing going on in there. Awesome switches on this thing. I bet it's just a joy to use. Yeah, this gold Founders Edition, $500 for this bad boy, but man, does it look cool. So in addition, you got the computer, PSU, HDMI cable, all that good stuff. You also get a spiral bound user guide. That's a throwback. 64 gig USB cassette drive featuring 50 plus full games, including some licensed classics from Commodore, plus music, demos, quick start guide, and a whole bunch of stickers. So it's got a lot of modern features. You can move games over via Wi-Fi or USB or whatever you want to do there, but it also caters to the old school Commodore fans by allowing you to use your dusty old cartridges in this thing too. So now you can relive your uncle's glory days, but in full HDMI, which is kind of fun. And if you buy this, man, you've got to use it. I know there's a lot of people out there collecting stuff and want to display it, which is cool, but man, you got to use this thing. Put it to use, man. Is this something that you're interested in for $299? I mean, if so, I might actually pick up one of these. I don't know if I'll pick up the gold one. That's $500 is a bit much, but $299 starting at, and they ship around October, it's looking like. So if you want to get one of these, now's the time to do it. Let me see my Commodore fans in the comments down below. Guys, I took a ride in a robot car and it was terrifying. Now, Tesla recently launched their Robotaxi fleet out in Texas, and they're already trying to bring it to Arizona because of course they are. Let's dig into this. All right, so these Waymo taxis have existed where I live for a while now, and I took a ride with some buddies at the Meta PC's office. We wanted to just check this thing out. It's a bit harrowing to be riding in a car with no driver and just saying, yep, just take me where I want to go, and hopefully we make it in one piece. It's a bit weird. I'm not sure if I travel that way every day. Doing it for the memes though, super worth it. Well, Tesla, they have their Robotaxi as well, and they're already trying to expand the Robotaxi service here to Arizona. Tesla has applied to test and operate autonomous vehicles in Arizona in a bid to bring its fledgling Robotaxi service to the Phoenix area. The state's Department of Transportation has confirmed. Now, it's really easy for a lot of companies to operate these Robotaxi type vehicles here in Arizona because, quite frankly, there's not a lot of restriction on it. So of course, this would be a natural market for Tesla to try to expand the Robotaxi into. Tesla contacted the Motor Vehicle Division under the Arizona Department of Transportation on June 26 to begin the certification process. The company, which launched a limited Robotaxi service in South Austin, and by the way, I'm going to show you, they just expanded the coverage. Of course, this is the expanded coverage map. Look like anything to you? I wonder whose idea that was. Well, Tesla launched in June their limited Robotaxi service in South Austin that's currently open only to people the company invites, but Elon Musk wrote Thursday that Tesla plans to expand the service farther into the city soon. I'm guessing this is the expansion. Again, of course it is. Musk's Robotaxi ambitions may bump up against regulatory reality, at least in California. Arizona, California, and Texas, all states that Elon wants to see Tesla Robotaxis, have very, very different requirements. This is where we get into some states are much more lenient on the Robotaxi idea than others. California, that's going to probably be a pretty tough one. In California, companies that want to test and eventually deploy autonomous vehicles have to receive a series of different permits from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Those permits cover the various stages of testing autonomous vehicles with and without a human safety operator behind the wheel. In fact, sometimes I'll see the Waymos driving around here and they aren't driverless. They actually have a driver in them, and that's typically they're mapping new areas or trying to expand the reach of the Waymo service. It'll be interesting to see how Waymo responds with Tesla trying to get in on that Robotaxi action. And here's what California had to say about it. If Tesla intends to conduct driverless testing or deploy autonomous technology, it must apply for the appropriate permit. The California DMV statement reads, to date, Tesla has not applied for either a driverless testing or deployment permit. Now, here's where things get a little bit more lenient here in Arizona. It's not as arduous. There are several steps to navigate. So here's what you have to do in Arizona. This is kind of interesting. Self-certification process for either testing with or without a driver. Self-certification process. This doesn't mean Tesla or any AV company that completes the self-certification can operate a service that charges for rides. So in order to do that, to operate a ride-hailing service, human or robot, you must apply for a transportation network company permit. But all in all, I mean, not too crazy to start running autonomous vehicles here in Arizona. This appears to be the market to do it. Now, I've been in one of these things. It was interesting to say the least. Let me know, would you trust your life in the hands of a robot car like I did? Or are you smarter than me? and trust yourself a little bit more. That's probably the way to go at this point. Let me know what you think. Self-driving cars down in the comments below. You know, there's nothing like testing your beta cars in 120-degree heat and 6-lane intersections here in Arizona. Good luck, Elon. Asus just built a graphics card that costs more than most houses, and you got it. It's literally made of gold. Now, we're not talking about the Dahab edition GPU. By the way, Micro Center posted this. Check this out. This is a Dahab signed Jensen GPU. Now, that Dahab edition, 10 grand. It's not what we're going to be talking about today. But look at this. They have a signed 5090 Dahab edition at the Micro Center in Santa Clara. I don't know if they've moved it yet, but check it out. They're showing it off here. This is a step up in a big way. Asus loses it. $500,000, $500,000. RTX 5090 ROG Astral Real Gold Edition showcased. And you guys thought the real Astral cards were expensive? This is insane. Now, we're not sure what is happening over at Asus. Maybe a little bit crazy over there. It's a one-off collector's card as well, so not technically for sale, although everything has a price, and this one just happens to have a price of $500,000. We're not sure what's happening at Asus. Perhaps they're having such a strong year with their ultra expensive ROG Astral series that they decided to release yet another graphics card based on it. Unfortunately, your chances of buying this one are zero because it is now the most expensive GPU ever made. Here's some photos that were shared of the card as well, made of pure gold. Now, we've talked a lot about expensive GPUs. Mostly the Dahab edition got a whole ton of press because it was just so absurd at $10,000. But take a look at this. This is a $500,000 graphics card. Now, the Dahab edition, that featured a real gold shroud, 6.5 grams of real gold. You know what? Apparently that wasn't enough because Asus is now showing a ROG Astral made of 5 kilograms of gold. That's 11 pounds in freedom units. That is crazy. 1 kilogram costs around $100,000. So this is a $500,000 graphics card, and that's excluding the GPU cost underneath. That's just gold. The whole card weighs around a staggering 15 pounds and still about 60% of the weight of a real gold bar. It's easy to think that Asus has gone overboard with this design, which is clearly a showpiece that we can only hope will be auctioned for charity. For now, no additional information about this GPU other than it's got a crap ton of gold on it. I've been thinking this is so long overdue. We finally have a GPU for people with gold toilets. I've been waiting forever for that. That's finally the gold toilet folks can be served with a $500,000 graphics card. So yeah, you get a gold graphics card. Everything else is exactly the same under the hood, but now your fingerprints cost just a little bit extra. If you did have this graphics card, this is something that you wouldn't want to let anyone know that you have, right? I mean, you keep it locked up in a safe. Would you use it? I mean, the person that gets this, I would think you'd use it at least once, right? You'd have to use it at least once to say that you gamed and you played Minesweeper on a $500,000 graphics card. That would be just the ultimate flex. It would probably piss a whole lot of people off, but pretty funny, right? Yeah, so this was part of Asus's luxury tech exhibit that they put on, and yeah, they really nailed it. It's hard to beat a $500,000 graphics card. Great job, Asus. Nice. Well, if anyone else is feeling bottlenecked by their net worth after looking at this this graphics card, make sure you hit subscribe and like on the video. I've got a whole bunch more coming out this week. As always, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.